Keith Moskowitz has been a member of TRP since March of 2014. Keith emphasizes consumer and small business bankruptcy issues, primarily for debtors. As a sole proprietorship, the office is able to provide personal attention and service to each and every client through the completion of your bankruptcy. The law offices of Keith Moskowitz strive to assist its clients in order to offer relief from financial burden. With that, Keith?
Well, thank you. So first of all, thank you, Glenn. I am a bankruptcy attorney. To give you a little background, when I got out of law school, it was the absolute last thing I wanted to do and my worst grade in law school. And in 1987, I needed a job. And a friend of mine had just made a partner at a law firm. They offered me the job on one condition. They said, well, Jay said you were better than the last two associates. So if you can do both of their jobs, you're hired. And I took over for a bankruptcy trustee, and I've continued with it. I'm kind of lucky that I'm one of the attorneys, after 30 years, I still enjoy what I do. So, what exactly is a personal bankruptcy? Or that's the ability to reorganize or discharge your debts. And it's something that's available to everyone. You know, some people who have filed bankruptcy is Mark Twain, Abraham Lincoln, Donald Trump's companies have done it 6 times, Larry King, Willie Nelson, millions of Americans. And based on the numbers, statistically, every 3 people have filed in their lifetime.
A third of Americans have filed for bankruptcy? You guys should be sending me more referrals.
There's some people who have done it. You may know some of them. So let's talk about what personal bankruptcy, what is it? Personal bankruptcy is allowed under federal law, and the whole purpose is to give people a fresh financial start. And it's also a constitutional right. Some key points. Bankruptcy is not something that should be taken lightly. However, it's an important tool for people facing severe financial problems. You know, people who have cancer will run through their life savings in 2 years statistically. It can stop debt collectors. If you get behind on a mortgage, it can stop a foreclosure and allow you to catch up. It can stop lawsuits, and it can stop garnishments. And most importantly, it can help either you, your friends, or your family get a fresh financial start. So, some topics I'd like to cover. First of all, it's a legal right for all U.S. residents, so you do not have to be a citizen to file a bankruptcy. Essentially, for individuals, we have either a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. We're going to talk about what happens after you file bankruptcy, what you can keep, and how to rebuild your credit. So it is a court proceeding. 99% of the people will never see a bankruptcy judge over. It's also very, very important that you hire an attorney. You know, there are a lot of people who say, well, I can fill out the forms. Those are the people who lose their assets. You know, not that I'd ever admit to pre-bankruptcy planning, but it's an important tool that we do to make sure you get the most benefit. One of the questions I get is, how long does it last? It's reported for 10 years on your credit report. You know, each debt that's discharged can then also be reported for 7 years. One of the things I tell all of my clients, because everybody is very, very nervous and very upset when they come to me, I always ask them, how big is their mailbox? And the reason I ask that is because literally every car dealer between Trinidad and Cheyenne, within 2 weeks of filing the bankruptcy, is going to be offering a new car loan. So you can establish your credit rather quickly. It's also a federal right. It's in the Constitution. So there are 3 kinds of bankruptcies for most individuals. There's a Chapter 7, which, although called a liquidating bankruptcy, in the majority of cases with a little planning, most people don't lose anything. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy is very, very useful if you owe taxes, if you're behind on a mortgage, or you have assets that are non-exempt. We can pay them off on 3 to 5 years. In very, very, very rare cases, with exceptionally high income people with an exceptional amount of debt, we do look at a Chapter 11. But it really does not make sense for almost 99.9% of the people. So, Chapter 7, it removes your responsibility for paying most of your debts that are not secured by collateral. Collateral is very simple. If it's a house that's secured, that secures your mortgage, or a car loan, and so those are non-dischargeable if you want to keep them. However, a lot of people get very upside down on cars. We can just give them back and give you a fresh start. You're allowed to keep most assets. So in 2005, in October, a new law went into effect for bankruptcy. And basically what the attempt was that people who could pay back their debts should be in a Chapter 13. As a practical matter, it really does not affect that many people. So what we look at is the median income. The median income for a single person in Colorado is, I think it's $53,000. It's indexed up, or $53,000, excuse me. For a family of four, it's about $92,000, and there are a lot of deductions. So that's something that I will spend a couple of hours with my clients reviewing. The other, what I think is kind of an unfair part of this, is that if 50, am I at 10 minutes?
No.
This is your.
Oh, okay. If your debt is primarily business debt, then you can file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy regardless of your income. I filed many, many bankruptcies for business people with failed businesses or doctors who have income hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's primarily business. A couple things that are preliminary. When you come to me, we're going to sit down, probably spend, I say a half-hour consultation, it's always an hour. But once we decide to move forward and work together, as I tell my clients, I decide that I like them, we'll start the process. And one of the things they have to do is credit counseling. It's an hour. Then you also have to take a financial management course afterwards. We then prepare all of your documents, they're filed, and then we'll meet with a bankruptcy trustee, which is an attorney who's hired by the U.S. Department of Justice to review your case. And what he's looking to see if there's anything for the creditors. So in Colorado, each individual has exemptions. Just for example, it's $3,000 in household goods. Well, anybody who has kids can't sell their household goods for $3,000. They just get beat up. You can have $75,000 equity in your home or $105,000 equity if you're over 60. 100% of pensions and 401ks or Social Security or workers' comp. And again, this is why you need an attorney. Chapter 13 is a little bit different. You'll pay, and again, this is something I try to avoid because it's a 5-year payment fee, but sometimes it makes a lot of sense. Debts are paid in installments over a 3 to 5 year period. You'll keep almost all of your property as long as you continue to make your Chapter 13 payments. And most importantly, you can cure defaults in a mortgage, cars, child support, or taxes. within the Chapter 13. Some key points. A person can file bankruptcy under one chapter at a time. Occasionally we do what's called a Chapter 20, where we'll file a Chapter 7, get the person underneath the jurisdictional amount to file a Chapter 13, and then pay off taxes or child support that way. A means test will be determined if you're eligible for a Chapter 7 or have to go into a Chapter 13. You do have to take pre- and post-bankruptcy counseling. You can only file a Chapter 7 every 8 years, and a Chapter 13 can only be filed if you've not received a bankruptcy discharge in the past 2 to 4 years. So, what cannot bankruptcy do? Well, it can't discharge child support or alimony. If you have debts for personal injuries or death that are caused under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs, those are non-dischargeable. I sort of have a student loans as always being non-dischargeable. That's in general true, but we are seeing a trend. Student loans, the courts are beginning to see what a problem they are, and if we can prove undue hardship, which is still very difficult, we can discharge student loans. Any fines or penalties for criminal violations are non-dischargeable. Income taxes that are which are incurred over more than 3 years ago, potentially are dischargeable. But if they're within the last 3 years, they never are dischargeable. And credit purchases for luxury goods or items within 60 days of filing are non-dischargeable. The funny thing is, I haven't had that in 10 years. And just recently, I had a client who, even though I asked this question, felt that getting her nails done, pedicures, and she ran up $2,900 in the 2 weeks prior to filing bankruptcy. And she was surprised. Go figure.
How do you do that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to
Okay. If you have debts owed to a single creditor, more than $500, we just talked about, cash advances, debts or judgments for fraud or illegal activities. I unfortunately took one of the first 3 cases up through the courts to see if we could reorganize a medical dispensary. Did not go over well. So you could not reorganize a marijuana business.
Because it's federal law, right?
Because it's a federal law. So after bankruptcy, it can change your life in a very, very positive way. You know, it basically can get you a fresh start, approximately 2.5 years after filing a bankruptcy or discharge. Jim, in one of my difficult cases, can get you a mortgage.
It's actually only a year now.
What's
It's
that?
a year of payments under 13.
Thank you. And there are some negative things. It may be hard to get a low-interest credit card, and employers may look at that, departments may look at that, insurance companies may look at it, and it may affect your rates. It will not affect your present employment. It's a federal law. And anybody has any questions?
But it can affect future. Like, so if you were trying to get a job and they run your credit, it absolutely can affect you trying
Yes,
to get a
that's
job.
what I had on there. So it is something you need to consider. But the other point is that if they see somebody who's filed bankruptcy and reestablished their credit, it's a lot better than having 7 years in defaults.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, how about
Oh,
one question?
okay.
How about you as the one question, 7
One question. So,
All right.
price range for
generally what it would cost to get that actually done? I mean, is there like a range?
Yeah, probably from, $1,200, $1,500 to $75,000 to $100,000.
Depending.
Depending on what I have to do.
Yeah.
When I tell people, they call me on the phone, what does it cost to do a bankruptcy? And the analogy is, when you run into the emergency rooms, what does it cost to come here? Well, I don't know if I'm putting in stitches or doing brain surgery. So each person is different. But generally for a consumer, you're looking at about $1,200.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.